So I'm going to start out today and just talk to you a little bit about our sports sustainability team, who we are, what this group is about. So we are representatives from all 15 ACC institutions, and this includes folks from sustainability offices, from waste reduction and recycling offices, faculty members, staff members, athletics administration, operations and marketing teams. So essentially anyone who's doing this work or interested in doing this work on your campus is welcome to be a member of our team. We have partnering groups with a student organization across the ACC called the ACC Sustainable Athletes. So we work closely with that group of student leaders who are focused on sports sustainability in the ACC, as well as have some contacts and are continuing to build relationships with the ACC office. The purpose of our group is really to be a collaborative peer network. So we're by each other, for each other, in a very kind of shared learning environment. We're really looking for collective progress across the conference as a whole. Each of our institutions has different strengths and different experiences, and we're looking to bring those to each other and help pull the group along, as well as offer opportunities for you to learn and implement new programs and initiatives on your individual campuses. So during COVID, we took that downtime to create a, kind of shared mission, vision, set of values, and, kind of strategy areas for our group. We felt it was a good time for us to really hone in on what it is that we're trying to do. So this is kind of our motto. We do this as the ACC tagline, and we're doing this for our future. So that's really what our team is about. Our mission is about leading and cultivating the collective strengths and expertise of ACC member institutions to create impact for people, planet, future through innovative sports sustainability practice. Our vision is really about, one second, you guys, sorry, I'm gonna make my little thing smaller here so I can see everything. We're really about trying to channel the power of sports and the ACC sustainability culture to transform lives and communities through engagement, through collaboration, and through climate change mitigation. Sorry about that. My screen's being a little funny for me. So this is our team values. Our values was really our opportunity to kind of think about the things that are going to permeate through everything that we do, what's really at the base of what we're trying to do. And really it's about climate. It's about climate change. And then this gave us the opportunity to think about the idea of influence and how we're using sports to educate and develop sustainability leaders throughout the ACC. How we're trying to integrate this work into our institutions and incorporate climate action throughout our campuses and also our communities. And the progress that we're trying to create, competition, as well as measuring and reporting our collective sustainability impact. And doing this with a lens of equity, creating community accountability and infrastructure that provides sustainability for all. And so our team playbook is really our strategies, our sort of buckets of our work. So this is how this work really plays out on our campuses and across our conference. And so student athlete leadership is at the top of this list for a very important reason. Student athletes are the reason why sports programs exist in higher education, and they really should be at the forefront of that work. So supporting student athletes across the conference to be leaders in the sustainability transformation is really first and foremost. Next is academics and research. Like, we are not the same as a pro sports organization. We're higher ed. So what we really have to offer are the academics and research that each of our institutions have to bring to the table. So utilizing that teaching and research of our institutions to develop innovative sports sustainability solutions is an opportunity that we uniquely have in higher education. And then operations and efficiency. So this is really demonstrating the resource reduction and the efficiencies in game and facility operations, one of the primary ways that athletics shows up through competition and through those actual games. And sponsorship and marketing. So huge opportunities here, seizing those opportunities for the revenue streams that exist around sustainability and developing sponsorships and partnerships with those organizations that can really help drive this work forward. And last but certainly not least is fan and community engagement. The opportunity the sports provides to engage with fans, the engagement that happens just because of sports creates this really, really rich environment for behavior change and engaging those fans in that community. So now Jonathan's going to talk a little more about that. I wanted to point you all to our website. If perhaps you did not go to our website to register for today's conference, I encourage you to. We just launched this website in the past few weeks, and there's some great information there that we're continuing to build on, but specific initiatives at individual institutions, as well as some burgeoning information on our student athletes and the work that they're doing. But this is our way of really trying to, to have a landing page for folks like you to be able to learn more and ways to be able to tell our story. And so really the teamwork, the way that we show up together has existed in a few different ways. So we started in, gosh, Jonathan, I'm gonna have to think now, when we actually started doing the 2018, I believe, is that right?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so I think 2018 was when we first started meeting as a group and actually having regular calls. Zoom wasn't quite even a thing yet, so we were doing this on the phone, and had decided to plan a first conference at NC State University in 2019. We had about over 50 attendees at that in-person conference, which was a great kind of kicking off point for us to really meet each other and move this work forward. And then a little thing happened in the spring of 2020 when we were supposed to have our second conference, a little thing called COVID, and we had to switch that conference to virtual. At the time, that ended up working really well for us because we were able to reach a really great audience. We had about 300 plus attendees at that virtual conference in the spring of 2020. And so we took a little break in 21, and now we're here in 22 with this workshop series, still trying to kind of meet the difference between our in-person gatherings and our virtual ones. And so this workshop series will continue throughout this year into next summer, when we are hoping to be back physically on a college campus at an ACC school, which could be you, as a matter of fact. So if your campus is interested in being that host institution, you let us know. But we already have monthly Zoom calls that we are starting to organize around different topics. That's really where the idea of this workshop series came about, was to really focus in and be able to invite campus partners and individuals to particular conversations that were pertinent to them. But really, we are a peer network. We're here for each other. So should you have a question about something, just having a group of people that you can reach out to, having an individual colleague that you can reach out to that has had some success in a certain area. We have a shared Google folder of resources that we can share with you. So we're continuing to kind of grow what our resources are, both in that shared Google folder as well as on our website. So just lots of different ways for you to get involved. So we'll come back around at the end of today and talk about ways specifically how you can do that. But I'm going to kick it over at this point to Jonathan Casper, who is the associate professor in Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Management, as well as the sports management coordinator at NC State University. So Jonathan, could take it away.
All right, thank you. I guess I represent the academic components for this team in many ways, and I'm excited to be here and excited to talk to everybody a little bit about a background of how we kind of got here and some of the research that I've done that kind of relates to that, and then mostly to stress why college athletics and higher education are such a unique opportunity for us when we start looking forward strategically about some of the actions that we can do. So to kind of stress the link between sport and college sport specifically, as well as higher education and the university itself. So you can advance to the next slide. So we started out, for me, it was in 2009. I had read a study by a graduate student at the time at Harvard University who had looked at the environmental impact and key decision makers' attitudes about sport and sustainability within pro sports. And so I contacted him and I said, hey, have you done this with college sports? Because I think this would be a really interesting thing to do, is to look at how do the key decision makers feel about sustainability within their athletic program, specifically athletic directors. And what are they currently doing now to set kind of a baseline attempt? And within that study, probably the biggest finding that I had was there was very little communication between the athletic departments and specifically the sustainability departments on campus. Two strong organizations doing great things, especially related to environmental sustainability, but weren't talking to each other. And so that caused me to reach out to Lindsay and the NC State's sustainability department here and say, hey, do you guys ever talk about sustainability together between athletics? And there wasn't any discussion, even though we had a strong recycling program. We had a lot of things that we're doing well. There wasn't communication. So that kind of started it. And within college sports, we know that there's this environmental impact. That's kind of like sustainability 101. And the fact that we have large scale facilities, we have big events that we manage, we have team travel, we have fan travel. And because of that, we know that sport impacts the environment. But we're also starting to see how the environment is affecting us and in the sports that we play. So we start to see how extreme temperatures affect the game times that we might have for a football game, for example, or how extreme weather events. We played Notre Dame in a hurricane, as a matter of fact, not that long ago. How the extreme weather events happen, fires that create pollution and affect athlete health. So we're starting to see this kind of two-way effect. We know that what we do affects the environment, but we also see the environment affecting us. And so we need to kind of take caution when it comes to that. We see organizations that have come up to look at how sustainability in sports come together. So for example, right now, the Green Sport Alliance is happening. It's a large organization focused primarily, I would say, on professional sports. They've gone mostly in that realm, but also encompass a lot of the sustainability industry that happens along with that. In England, they have the BASIS. BASIS is the British version of the Green Sport Alliance. There's Sport Environment Alliance. So that's in Australia. So there's a whole bunch of organizations that are understanding the importance of sport and the importance of how sport organizations can tackle sustainability from a variety of different perspectives. And so we had this focus on environment that kind of was a big thing. And I'll talk in a few minutes about how we're starting to look beyond just environmental issues when it comes to looking at sustainability. Another important thing that we see is that we as society are starting to change our attitudes and our norms related to sustainability in a good way, in my perspective. And so people are becoming a lot more aware of sustainability as a whole. We're starting to see how this awareness impacts both locally and globally, some of the politics and policies that are happening. So we see that by people becoming aware and how they view sustainability as important can actually create change. And so that's really, really interesting. While there is polarization, we know that, for example, sometimes sustainability is very different among political lines. We also see that the majority of the percentage of those who view sustainability as important has become more and more important. And this is because of the millennials. This is because of Generation Z, who all feel that sustainability itself is an important issue in their lives. And so with that, we're starting to see this change. And also, and my research has pointed to this as well, females in almost all cases, whenever we do a comparison on any kind of study that I do and ask about the importance of sustainability, feel that sustainability is very important and significantly more important than males in most cases. So we're starting to see how these changes are starting to affect what we do and why we do it and why we should be doing it. So not only is sustainability a thing that is unique. It's something that needs to be accounted for within our operations. So that's important. And then my last point here, looking at environmental, economic, and social responsibility, is that we're starting to recognize sustainability, not just for the environmental aspects, but also looking at the economic and social aspects that are important within sustainability. And this has always been the case for sports. So for example, if we start looking at gender issues, and for example, Title IX, sport is the main area where we see this happening, okay? Even though it's supposed to happen throughout, for example, throughout all of the college, sport is the platform or where this becomes most poignant. So we see that. I did some research during COVID looking at how fans get information about COVID and what they should do. Should they be wearing masks? Should they not be wearing masks? We were studying a variety of professional organizations, and a lot of the fans felt that they trusted information, in this case from the NBA, from Major League Soccer, more than they did from the government. And so they were looking to the sport organizations for advice on health and health policies more than they were the CDC. Okay, and so we see that's important. Also, from an economic perspective, we see how being sustainable not only saves money, and as Lindsay pointed out, can actually make money. And so my colleague at the University of Colorado, colleagues at the University of Colorado, but most importantly, Dave Newport, has made a big statement about that. We undersell the value of sustainability a lot of times. We need to make sure that we communicate how important and how economically important it can be, because we can add and we can create points of difference that can build a collegiate athletic brand in many ways. So by being great in sustainability, we add value to what we do in all aspects of operation. So you can advance to the next slide, Lindsay. So as I mentioned, we're starting to see how sport is being used as this platform for sustainability, and it's not being ignored. And as a matter of fact, it's being embraced more and more. And as we see, it's going beyond the environmental aspects. So when we start looking at sustainability, the value of sport has never been higher when it comes to sustainability and behavior change. Sport is becoming more and more that big connection. And so we see, for example, the UN Sports for Climate Action, which is a big platform where they're looking at using sports for climate action, and then as well, looking at the UN Sport Development Goals. And actually, I will share a document. Let me just cut and copy it. I'm going to share a document in the chat for those that are interested. Okay, there. That shows basically how each of these sustainable goals is being addressed through sport. So all 17 of these sustainability goals is somehow being addressed through sport. So we're important, we have value. Another thing is we have fans, and these fans are loyal to their sport and their franchises. I'm a big Denver Bronco fan. My poor students get nailed with it every time I speak. Every example I try and have has some Denver Bronco meaning, right? But because of that, there's this affinity that I have to the sport organization. There's a trust that comes with the sport organization. The reason, for example, that sponsorships are so valuable in sport is because it's one of the best platforms for return on investment for these sponsors. So because of this, the allegiance, the trust that fans have, it can be a very valuable thing. Another important thing, and we actually just published some research on this recently, is that by being active in sustainability, we're actually adding value to some of the non-AVID fans. So sometimes the AVID fans, they just want to focus on the sport, but people that are there but want other things, to want to learn more about other things, see other things, have other things available during the actual sporting contest, view sustainability very high. And so sometimes it's not just about the hardcore fans, it's also about what we call non-AVID fans as well. last, and we haven't studied this as much, but there's a marketing managerial theory related. It's called demonstration effect, and this is kind of the seeing and doing. So when people see something, they're more likely to do it, and so it's so basically the effects of behavior of individuals caused by observation of the actions of others and their consequences. So basically what we see is if they see other fans doing something and they feel that there's this norm because of it. So for example, composting. We have a zero waste program at NC State. If my friends are composting, I'm more likely to do it as well, even if I've never done it before, right? And so that's an example of demonstration effect. Another thing that's even more important is we see the athletes. If athletes that I look up to are doing something related to sustainability, I'm more likely to be responsive to those types of behaviors. And this can also be true for the organization. So when we're talking about the ACC taking a lead on this, when we're talking about NC State taking a lead on this, the demonstration effect will say that the fans or the stakeholders, whoever we're reaching out to, are more likely to do it because of our authority that we have, the affinity and the trust that comes from it. Last slide. So colleges and sustainability and sports. There's no better place for what we're doing than where we are right now. For a lot of, I'm looking at the participant list, most of us here are at a university itself. And that's number one, because we have students, okay? We have we have students that are, are going to be leaders, hopefully in this case. And so within this, our actions have an impact on future generations. And so we play this critical role in making sure that we inspire and educate these students. So we have students there, and students that are, for example, even at NC State, expect sustainability. They don't just want it, they expect it. And so we have a responsibility to our students. So that's number one. Compared to other sport levels, such as professional sports, we also have outside community members. So we have the students that are part of the collegiate sports atmosphere, but we also have, for example, we're in Raleigh, we have the Raleigh area community and the alums that come back for sports and all that stuff. So there's a variety of different stakeholders that take place when we start looking at collegiate sports. Another really important aspect, and this is where it ties into higher education, is that sustainability is this thread that is part of all of campus life. And if there's one thing that I know from being in sport management and working with college athletic programs, is that they're always looking for ways to connect better with the university. Sometimes there's this idea that the athletics program is completely isolated from the university itself. And so if we think about using sustainability as this way of bridging these ties, okay, that can be really important for all the different actions that we have. And so a lot of universities have these pillars of focus, like where they're going to focus. We have these core pillars, and there's usually one that's related to sustainability. There's usually something related to well-being and academics within these. It depends on the university and what pillars they have. But most of them have sustainability as part of a key pillar of what they're doing from a strategic direction. And so we become this link for a lot of what happens within athletics and then also within our departments. And so I don't know how much time I went there, but I think I'll kind of end it here and then let us kind of hopefully talk to each other a little bit.
Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate that. So as Jonathan alluded to, we're now gonna actually have you break out into small groups, small huddle discussions with peers, and do a little bit of introduction and idea generation. Could have kept talking for a while. I hope you all had the same experience. I'm going to share my screen once more just because I had a final wrap up slide here. Give me 1 second. right. Actually, and I think I realized I planned poorly here because I wanted to be able to go through the notes document and, and see if there were some highlights. So I'm going to try to do this quickly, but I'm probably gonna exit out of that and go back to our little reel here. So forgive me if I'm just gonna do this from. So I hope you all had good discussions. It looks like from breakout huddle number 1, you guys might, and I might prompt my other facilitators if you guys have something you want me to talk about, if you'll highlight it for me real quick, that would be super helpful. But again, this notes document was really so that we could keep track of everything that you all talked about and ensure that we can come back around to these topics at future discussions. So I'm definitely not going to have time to get through everything, but it looks like in number 1, really just talking about things like networking and connections, case studies and research. We actually have some of this, resource sharing and benchmarking. So those are some great topics, Brian, from that group to seed future webinars and workshops. So that's awesome. It looks like huddle number 2 talked about ways to expand zero waste into other sports and how to empower student athletes. Really great topics. That hopefully permeated through others. What products can be composted? This is group number 3, and recycled. And what are we purchasing to meet our carbon neutrality goals? So some of our composting and recycling, some of our schools in the ACC are really stand out in this area. So lots of great information to share on that topic specifically. And then this is me, number 4, and I was having a hard time keeping notes, so I wrote things down. So we talked about some great things, including that student athlete leadership piece, things like an athletic sustainability internship. We talked about food waste and food insecurity. So there were a few different areas for us that really, that really popped out. And so I'm going to go back at this point and see if I can do this real quick. So I just wanted to mention that there's ways for you all to get involved. And so we'd really love for you to join our team, have access to these resources. We're happy to share that, that Google Share Drive that we have, and, add you to our listserv, add you to our monthly meetings, so that you can be a part of this team and have access to, to the other folks who are doing this work on the ACC campuses across the conference. Some of our next plays are that this is a workshop series. So this was our kickoff to a workshop series. We're shooting for every other month, and we'll be jumping in on topics that you all have shared with us. So thanks for that. And, we'll be looking to extend that through to next summer. We're also looking to continue to build our ACC engagement. So if you all have great relationships with the ACC and have ideas for how we can do this more fully, we are all ears. And then I think something fun to look forward to is that we'd really love to have our conference again in the summer of 23 at an ACC campus. And so if you feel like that campus is yours, you really don't have to. There will be a team of people to be able to help you plan and think about how to do this. It's a group effort. So it really doesn't fall on you as a host campus to do all the work, but it would be exciting for us to be able to do that. And so I want to be respectful of you all's time and let you know that we plan to send out a follow-up survey just to make sure, and with access to resources, some of the things we've talked about today, and then just get your feedback. So really appreciate your joining us today. I want to give a really quick round of thank yous to our planning team for today. Sam Kelly and Leela Gardner from UVA, thank you very much. Leela's been running tech for us today. Lonnie St. Hill at NC State, Melissa Cadwell at Syracuse, Brian Cohen at Wake Forest, and Bruce Dixon at Boston College. So I just want to give a shout out to those folks for helping make this happen. And I sure hope to see you all at a future workshop soon. So we'll be in touch. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great afternoon.